And anon in the morrowtide, the high priest made a council with the elder men and the scribes, with all the council, and bound Jesus, and led him, betook him to Pilate. And Pilate asked him, Art thou the King of the Jews? And Jesus answered and said to him, Thou sayest. And the high priest accused him in many things. But Pilate again asked him and said, Answerest thou nothing? Seest thou in how many things they accuse thee? But Jesus answered no more, so that Pilate wondered. But by the feast day he was wont to let go to them one of the men bound, whomever they asked. And there was one that was said Barabbas, that was bound with men of dissension, that had done manslaughter and sedition. And when the people was gone up, he began to pray, as he evermore did them. And Pilate answered to them and said, Will ye that I let go to you the King of the Jews? For he knew that the high priest had taken him by envy. But the bishop stirred the people, that he should rather let go of them Barabbas. And again Pilate answered and said to them, What then will ye that I should do to the King of the Jews? And they again cried, Crucify him. But Pilate said to them, What evil hath he done? And they cried the more, Crucify him. And Pilate, willing to make satisfaction to the people, let go to them Barabbas. And he betook to them Jesus, beaten with scourges, to be crucified. And knights led him within forth, into the porch of the moot hall. And they called together all the company of knights. And they clothed him with purple, and they wreathed a crown of thorns, and put on him. And they began to greet him, and said, Hail, King of the Jews! And they smote his head with a reed, and bespat him, and they kneeled, and worshipped him. And after that they had scorned him, they unclothed him of the purple, and clothed him with his clothes, and led out him to crucify him. And they compelled a man that passed by the way, that came from the town, Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and of Rufus, to bear his cross. And they led him into a place, Golgotha, that is to say, the place of Calvary. And they gave to him to drink wine meddled. They gave to him to drink wine meddled with myrrh, and he took not. And they crucified him, and parted his clothes, and cast lots on those who should take what. And it was the third hour when they crucified him, and the title of his cause was written, King of the Jews. And they crucified with him 2 thieves, one at the right half, and one at his left half. And the scripture was fulfilled that saith, And he is ordained with wicked men. And as they passed forth, they blasphemed him, moving their heads and saying, Vath, thou that destroyest the temple of God, and in 3 days buildest it again, come down from the cross, and make thyself safe. Also the high priest scorned him each to other with the scribes, and said, He hath made other men safe, he may not save himself. Christ, King of Israel, come down now from the cross, that we see and believe. And they that were crucified with him despised him. And when the 6th hour was come, darknesses were made on all the earth, till into the 9th hour. And in the 9th hour Jesus cried with a great voice, and said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And some of the men that stood about heard, and said, Lo, he calleth Elijah. And one ran and filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it about to a reed, and gave him to drink, and said, Suffer ye, see we, if Elijah come to do him down. And Jesus gave out a great cry, and died. And the veil of the temple was rent in 2, from the highest to beneath. But the centurion that stood over against saw that he so crying had died, and he said, Verily this man was God's Son. And there were also women beholding from afar, among whom was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James the Less, and of Joseph, and of Salome. And when Jesus was in Galilee, they followed him, and ministered to him, and many other women that came up together with him to Jerusalem. And when the eventide was come, for it was the eventide that is before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, the noble decurion, came, and he abode the realm of God, and boldly he entered to Pilate, and asked the body of Jesus. But Pilate wondered if he were now dead. When the centurion was called, he asked him if we're dead. When he knew of the centurion, he granted the body of Jesus to Joseph. And Joseph bought linen cloth, and took him down, and wrapped him in the linen cloth, and laid him in a sepulchre that was hewn of a stone, and wallowed a stone to the door of the sepulchre. And Mary Magdalene, and Mary, mother of Joseph, beheld where he was laid.